Hi everyone, we're going to give it a few seconds to let everyone flow in and then we will begin. Hello and welcome to our Small Business Relief Grant Program for the City of Newport. A little housekeeping before we begin. Everyone is muted during the webinar. All webinars are recorded and sent to all attendees after the webinar has concluded, along with a copy of the slides. There will be Q&A at the end of the presentation today, but please feel free to ask questions during the webinar by clicking on the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Once the presentation concludes, I will ask the questions presented in the Q&A box. I may not get to everyone's questions, but we will do our best. If we don't get to your questions, please call 800-616-7232. I will also put this number in the chat box. Over to you, Tara.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. I am Tara Finnegan. I'm Deputy City Manager for the City of Newport Beach. Our City Manager, Grace Leung, and our City Council members, I'm sure they wish they could be here today, but they have a City Council meeting that starts in less than an hour. So just to give you a quick background on the program, the city received about $2.1 million in coronavirus relief funding through the County of Orange. It's federal dollars, but we received them through the county specifically to help small businesses in Newport Beach. So the City Council approved this grant program to provide up to $10,000 to small businesses in Newport Beach. And we're really fortunate to partner with the Small Business Development Corporation, who's leading the webinar today, who's going to help us with this program and administer the program for us. Mike?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tara. And welcome everybody. And so today we're going to go through really the criteria of the program, eligibility, next steps, and when this opens and how we might be able to help you. So my name is Mike Daniel. I'm the Regional Director for the Orange County Inland Empire Small Business Development Center. And Manal Richa, who's our Director for one of our Orange County centers that's going to be on and walking you through this as well. There's a Q&A box. So as we go through this, if there's any questions you have, please type them in. We will try to answer them as we're going through it, but at the end, we will try to answer every question to the best of our ability. And there's always going to be a curveball and one that we didn't expect, so we will try to get you an answer if we don't quite have it. So with that, let's get started. So a little bit about the program itself. So it's Small Business Relief Grant Program. It's one-time funding. So your business has to be located within the city of Newport Beach. And really, it has to be based around a need for assistance around aid and recovery from a temporary loss of revenue from COVID-19. And so we'll go through the qualifier of what that means and what it means to have been affected by COVID-19, because there are very stringent definition for that. The application period for this will open up this Friday, June 12th at 8 a.m. and will close on Tuesday, June 16th at 5:30 p.m. So very quick, it's starting quick. And so if you need any help with it, that's what we're here for. So grant amounts. So applicants are eligible to receive grants up to $10,000 based on the following criteria. So if you have 5 or less employees, then you would receive up to $5,000. 6 to 10 employees, up to $7,500, and 11 to 30 is up to $10,000. So as we go through the funding priorities, one, you have to be located in the city's commercial and industrial areas, and you need to provide services on site, and you have to have been severely impacted by COVID-19. That's the first priority. Second priority is there will be precedence that will be given to retail, restaurants, and personal service establishments such as hair salons, barber shops, nail salons, and small gyms and health clubs. That will be kind of given first priority and then moving down the line from there. The second piece of this is qualified applicants from these 3 types of businesses will be given priority as well. So businesses that have not received any federal assistance, whether it be economic injury disaster loan or paycheck protection program, that also fit within those 3 categories of restaurant, retail, or professional service are first in line. And then if you have received economic injury disaster loan, would be second within retail, restaurant, and professional service. And then if you received economic injury disaster loan and PPP and fit into retail, restaurant, and professional service, that would be third, open, followed by fourth, everyone else that fits into the right criteria. So that's kind of the rundown. I know it's a little complicated to understand, but just know that if your business has been affected by COVID, you are a small business, this definitely is open to you, but there is a priority based around restaurant, retail, and hospitality first. And then if you receive funding from the federal government or not, kind of in that order. And so we'll try to cover that in just a minute as well. But applicants need to prove first that your business has been affected by COVID-19. And so there's a couple ways to do that. So first, if your business was shut down by the federal government or the state government and deemed non-essential, that is one qualifier. The second qualifier would be that your sales were down more than 25% compared to the previous 3 months, or the previous or the following 3 months prior to COVID, or year over year. So a couple of different ways to do that, or that you've had to lay off at least one of your employees due to COVID, or that one of your employees contracted COVID-19 while at work. So hopefully, not the last thing. We definitely want to make sure that doesn't happen. But any one of these really 4 things would qualify as proving that your business has been affected by COVID-19. I'm going to assume, just based on most people's businesses, that the first bullet point, or that you were forced to shut down, is probably going to fit into most, and then followed by, either you had to lay off one or some of your employees, or that your sales are down more than 25%. So terms and conditions. So to be eligible for this funding, you have to be a for-profit business and located within the Newport Beach city limits. You have to be legal and located in a commercial industrial zone, really, within the city. You have to be independently owned and operated with a principal office located within Newport Beach city limits. The officers of the business must reside in Orange County. So that's one really built around the CARES Act and the CARES Act funding. And keep in mind, these are federal dollars that are being rolled out to the county first and then to the city. So that's one of the requirements, is that you must, the business owners must also reside in Orange County. You have to have an active Newport Beach business license for a minimum of 6 months as of June 1st. So really, we're looking at December 1st. We would see that you've had at least an active business license since then. That you have 30 or less full-time employees, or if you had part-time employees, that for every 1 full-time equals 2 part-time, okay? And that you have an average annual gross revenue of $15 million or less. So those are the terms and conditions for this grant. And then a few other ones, and that you must be in good standing with the city. And so what that means is that within the city, that your business license fees are in good standing, and that you paid that, that you paid your business improvement district assessment, that you have a valid marine activity permit, if applicable. That word always trips me up for some reason. And that you don't have any existing municipal code violations. So you must be in good standing, and here's the parameters around that. And then you must disclose whether the business has received capital from the Paycheck Protection Program or an economic injury disaster loan. So that will be on the application, broken out in 3 parts. It'll say, have you received any economic injury disaster loan? Have you received any economic injury disaster loan advance? Because those are 2 different components to that program. Or have you received any Paycheck Protection Program funding? So that will be asked. It won't exclude you. It just means that there's a priority based on who received funding and who didn't. So we're going to ask those questions. That you follow the state's reopening guidance for the industry, and that you submit an application and all required supporting documentation. So that application will be in 2 different formats. So you can go directly onto the city's link, and it will link you right to our back end of our site, that you can fill an online portal application. And it takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to fill this out. Or you can you can download an application, print it out and fill it out, and either email it to us, or you can drop it off directly at City Hall, but you have to be there before 5 o'clock on Tuesday for it to count and be relevant. And these applications won't open until Friday at 8 a.m. So just keep in mind that you won't be able to find it until that time. Eligible activities. So now that you got the money, what can you spend it on? So the first thing is, you can spend it on your rent or your lease. You can spend it on mortgage payments. If you happen to own your commercial building, not your house, we want to make sure that you're spending on the right thing. Utility bills, payroll, inventory, technology, marketing and communications, cost of obtaining PPE. And, I like kind of hitting on this one, because this is, as we're reopening, there's 2 different things here. So as you're reopening your business, and I own a couple of candy and chocolate stores, PPE to protect that plexiglass, if you get it custom made, and that's what we had to do, because our cash system is a Clover system that spins. And so we couldn't just block it off. People have to actually be able to physically sign it. Those were $2,000 per store. So those are very expensive to get done. So this can cover some of that cost as well. Cost of obtaining PPE for your customers and for your staff. So if you want gloves or masks, those are so expensive, but that's what the city has deemed some eligible activities. And then devices, that you can install, whether it be, sanitation, hands-free payment devices, and different things like that. So these are all eligible activities for your business. And then use of funds. So when you receive the funds, you must sign and verify that you're going to use the funds on the expenses that you deem that you're going to spend it on. So part of the application will be kind of that breakout of all these categories. And you're going to say, all right, well, if I get $5,000, here's the breakdown of how I'm going to spend it, or how I think I'm going to spend it, but within these confines and within these categories. Also, you need to provide documentation verifying that the grant funds were used toward credible business expenses. So the way this is going to roll out currently is that you're going to get half of the funds up front. And so let's just say you got $10,000. Yeah, you're going to get $5,000 check from the city. You're going to go spend that $5,000. Let's just say you spend it on rent. You're going to come back to us. You're going to show us a receipt that you spent the money on rent. You're going to show us the receipt, and then the city will issue you the second round of funding. So, or you're going to spend on other things. So whatever you happen to spend on, you show us the receipts, and then the second half of the funding will be allocated to you. Okay. And business expenses that have already been reimbursed through the federal government are not eligible for the small business relief program. And that's a big piece, right? So if you did get paycheck protection program and receive funding in this, and you're paying for some of your employees through PPP, you cannot spend this money on the same thing, right? So you need to spend on alternating things. So when can you apply? So the application period, again, it opens on Friday, June 12th at 8 a.m. and it closes on Tuesday, June 16th at 5:30. This is not a first come, first serve. So do not feel that you have to get in at 8 a.m. and so you keep clicking on it right at 7:59, 8 o'clock to make sure that you're getting it in. It is not a first come, first serve. So take your time, fill it out correctly, because we want to make sure that it's all correct, because there are going to be some qualifiers in there. And late applications, unfortunately, will not be accepted. You're going to see the link and you're going to see everything come down right at 5:30 on Tuesday. And I apologize, I believe I said 5 o'clock earlier a minute ago. So it is 5:30 on Tuesday that this closes. So make sure that you get everything in by 5:30. If you need help through this, Manal, myself, our team, we can help walk you through this if you're just not sure. The application process itself on the front end is pretty straightforward. It should take you 15 to 20 minutes to fill in most of this information. There are going to be some documents that we're going to cover in a second that if you happen to be selected, that you're going to have to get to us and to the city. But in the front end, it's really just filling out that self-certifying application. And why you don't need to rush to get this in at 8 a.m. on the first day is that everyone that submits an application, so I'm going to assume there's going to be thousands of applications that are submitted. We're going to go through and verify that you're eligible based on the answers that you submit on your application. Everyone that's eligible will be put into a live lottery that we will then broadcast so that everybody can see it. And we'll pull names. And roughly it's going to be, I know that the dollar amounts are a little bit different, anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000, but it'll be roughly 200 to 250 applications or grants that will be awarded. So we'll go through that live so you'll be able to see that Friday, June 19th at 4 p.m. So, so like I said, you'll have plenty of time to get this in. You don't need to rush to get it done. So with that, I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Manal Richa, who's going to go through the second part of this, and then I'll try to answer some of the questions that you've asked as we go through it. So Manal?
Thank you, Mike. So the upcoming few slides are going to talk about what you need to prepare for if and when you are selected during the lottery drawing. So when the selection happens, and as Mike said, this is going to be a live broadcast, and you will be notified also. A team member from our center, the Small Business Development Center, will reach out to you to discuss and collect all required documentation. And in the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk you through those documentations so you can start getting ready. Once the initial documentation is received and collected and verified, the city will release 50% of the payment to you as a grant recipient. And then you as a grant recipient have to agree to an inspection by the city that is intended to verify that the grant funds will be used in accordance with the grant program requirements. Thank you, Mike. So again, when you're selected, the grant recipient is given a set amount of time to produce documentation, including receipts, and that the grant monies are being used to fund eligible expenses as explained and covered by Mike a few slides ago. Once the documentation is received, then the city will release the remaining 50% of the grant to the recipient. With that being said, we're gonna talk a little bit about the documents. So don't feel overwhelmed. As Mike said, we are here to help you through the process, and all of this information is and will be on the city's website. But the documentation requirements that we'll be looking for includes documents that will help demonstrate a decline in sales of more than 25% compared to the previous 3 months, that's prior to March 1st, 2020, or a comparable 3 months period. And what we would be looking for to collect is monthly financial records, P&L balance sheets for the 3 months ended May 2020. So we'd be looking for March 2020, April 2020, and May 2020. And the prior 3 months ended February 2020. So that would be financial records for December 2019, January, and February 2020. Or we would be looking to collect monthly financial records for the 3 months ended May 2020, that's March, April, and May, and for the 3 months ending May 2019, that's March 2019, April, and May 2019. So with that, what we're looking for, either a comparison to the previous 3 months or a comparison to a comparable 3 months period from last year. Next slide, please. Thank you, Mike. Also, you would need to demonstrate that the business has had to lay off at least one of its employees, be it full-time or part-time, and you will be asked to provide 2019 and 2020 forms 940 and 941 that will report for employment verification. You need to also prove that the business was considered non-essential by the federal and state government and was forced to shut down.
Yeah, if I could just jump in too.
Sure.
So as Manal's going through this initial kind of test for COVID-19, you don't have to prove all these things. You just have to prove one of them, right? So whether your business is down 25% or more, whether you've laid off an employee, or whether you were shut down by the government, it's a test to prove one of those three things. And the reason why is that with the CARES Act funding that's coming from the federal government, that your business has to show that it's been affected by COVID-19. So in any one of these three ways, and I get there's a lot of information here. It's going to be confusing. We're trying to not make it confusing, but I can see already it's so much, it's so quick. But just know it's just one of those three things. My business has been shut down, which I'm going to assume is most people. Just that alone will qualify and prove the COVID-19 test. Or you had to lay off just one employee or more, and part-time or full-time, and that's fine too. Or your business has your sales are down by more than 25%. Obviously that one's a little harder to prove, so it takes a little bit more information, but three different ways to do that. Sorry,
No worries. So the second set of documentation we'd be looking for, once you submit one of the three categories that we just mentioned, we would be looking also for a proof of active business license within the city for a minimum of 6 months prior to June 1st, 2020. So that means December of 2019. A copy of the 2019 business tax returns, or if you have not filed for your tax returns in 2019, we'd be looking for a copy for 2018. We would be looking also for 2 most recent bank statements from your business bank account, a copy of the lease or grant deed demonstrating proof of commercial or industrial business address. And you as an applicant must hold the master lease to this space.
Yeah, and let me just kind of qualify these things as to why, one, to make sure that you're an eligible business and, within the city, that you're in good standing, so you have a business license. Your tax returns are to prove that you're a legitimate business. The business bank statements are to showcase to the federal government, who's going to audit all these things, that you haven't received EIDL or PPP, or if you have, that we see it on your bank statements. And then a copy of the lease is to prove that you're in the commercial or industrial space and that you're not a home-based business. So just the rationale for this. And the last little bullet point, I know that there's a lot of either hair salons, nail salons, different, or insurance companies, or people that maybe lease a space within a space. So this grant is only open to the master leasee. Okay, so let's just assume that you operate a chair within a hair salon. So it's whoever holds the lease for the whole building itself, not the whole building, but the whole space. Let's say it's Suite 101 of 123 Main Street. But if you have a lease just for a single chair, unfortunately, you wouldn't qualify for this grant.
Thank you, Mike. So as Mike mentioned, a few minutes ago, you have 3 ways to apply starting Friday morning. And as Mike mentioned, this is not first come, first serve. So please take your time filling the application and don't rush through it. The first way to apply would be through the city's website. I just sent the link in our chat box, so you can capture that. You can also download a PDF copy of the application and email it to economicdevelopment@newportbeachca.gov. And also, in addition, you can submit the application in person to Newport Beach City Hall at the address that you see on the screen. And as Mike mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, and everyone who's attending this webinar will be receiving a recorded copy with these slides into your inbox by tomorrow morning. So you will have access to this information, and also this information will be available on the city's website. Next slide, please. So if you have questions or concerns as you are working through this application, please do not hesitate to reach out to the city and to us. The city manager's office contact information is on the slide, in addition to the email address, and also feel free to reach out to our SBDC team. Our phone number and email address is on the screen as well. So in a summary, this grant program is offered through the City of Newport Beach Small Business Emergency Grant Program, up to $10,000 based on the different brackets that Mike mentioned early on in this presentation. Precedence will be given to retail, restaurants, and personal service establishments such as gyms, hair and nail salons, and so forth. And there are other requirements, as Mike mentioned, including whether or not you already received assistance through the EIDL or the PPP program, and priorities will be followed based on that list. Your business must have been affected by COVID-19. The application will open Friday, June 12th at 8 a.m. up until Tuesday, June 16th, 5:30 p.m. Please remember, this is not first come, first serve, yet late applications will not be accepted. There will be a lottery held on Friday, June 19th. Selected grantees will be notified in writing and contacted by a team member from our SBDC team, so we can help you with the documentation. And then last but not least, additional information and all the details and the guidelines are available on the city's website, and that link was sent by Hannah to the chat box. It's newportbeachca.gov/businessgrants. Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you for Q&A.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And I know that was a lot of information. When the application goes live, like I said, it should take you 15 to 20 minutes to fill out that first part. And I know that there's a lot. So I know we have about 30 questions. So let's get to them, and feel free to ask as many questions as you want. There's already a couple of questions I can see on here that, we might need Tara's help in this and kind of deciphering a little bit. But let me just kind of start reading from the top, because trust me, if you have a question, other people do, so please ask them. Is it required to show a reduction in business over the previous 3 months to qualify? It is not. That is not the only way. You can also show a reduction from the previous year over year, or that's just one way to prove COVID. The other way to prove that COVID has affected your business would be that you've been shut down, or that you've had to lay off an employee. So 3 different ways to prove the same thing. You just have to prove one area of that. Okay, so a lot of different ways to do that. We closed our office down, but we're receiving settlement checks for old cases, but unable to take in new client cases during the 3 months we were closed our office. How would that affect our eligibility? So same thing, right? I mean, if you've been forced to close down, you've been forced to close your business, I think that right there kind of passes the test for the COVID-19 piece, and then making sure that you fit into the rest of the buckets as well, that you're a Newport Beach business, that you're fitting into you're in good standing, all those things. But I think if you've been forced to close down, and a lot of office buildings and spaces it's okay that you're still receiving from old settlements. I don't know that would preclude you from receiving this. Will vacation rentals be eligible for this aid? So unfortunately, vacation rentals are disqualified and not a part of this. And I just want to make sure, Tara, that we're saying the right thing, because from the guidelines, they were not a part of this.
The business has to be in a commercial or industrial zone, and most of our rentals are in residential zones.
Okay, perfect. Does the application have to be submitted in person, or can I submit by email? So awesome question. So a couple of ways you can do it. You can go directly through a link that's going to be live on Friday at 8 o'clock directly through the city. And you could go directly to that link and fill it on through an online portal, or you can fill out a PDF and then take it and send it in through an email, or you can drop it off at the city. So 3 different ways to get there, whatever is most convenient for you. but most people are gonna probably fill the online portal piece. So number of employees pre-closure or after reopening. Yeah, so it's as of March 1st, 2020. So we really want to know what that number of employees was. And this is referring to that count for employees of 30. We want to know where you were pre-COVID. And that's really the determination, not where you are after, because for many businesses, they've either lost all their employees or had to let them all go. So it's really the pre-COVID number. So March 1st, 2020 is the best number to get and to see where you fit around that. What if we have furloughed our employees? Would the employee count include those? So same thing, it's really where you were March 1st. So if you had furloughed people prior to March 1st, then absolutely, that should count as, a reduction. But I would count, I would take your March 1st number of exactly where you were at right there at that point in time. Okay. So what is the total amount in the fund which will be dispersed to qualified applicants? So it's roughly a little over $2 million. So $2.1 million, I think, is the total amount that the city received from the supervisor's district. Go on to the next one. Will you be running a credit check? So we will not be running a credit check on you, and there will not be a question asked about credit. So, so hopefully that's good news for everybody, but yeah. I'm going to assume everybody's credit's perfect anyway, so we won't even have that question. So with that, if your business does not have sales, can you show a decrease in revenue to show the impact? So absolutely, I think that is, right? And, so if you went from sales prior to March 1st and now you have no sales, you're down 100%. So that's exactly what we want to see is kind of, and unfortunately, it's not really what we want to see, but that's the effect that COVID-19 has had on our businesses. And, I'm in the same light. I have 3 businesses that were closed and it took us 9 weeks to reopen. So we had 0 sales for 9 weeks. That's why this program exists, is to try to help you as you try to survive and recover this. And as we're all starting to slowly reopen our business, the hope is that this will stimulate you in some ways or be able to help you afford some of the things that you need, whether it be inventory, to pay some old bills, to pay the rent that you hadn't had the ability to pay, to kind of forward facing new technologies, whatever that might be. That's the point of this. That's the point of this program. So one owner has 60% ownership shares, lives in Newport Beach. The second owner, 40%, lives outside of Orange County. Can we still qualify? So based on the guidelines, you would not qualify, but Tara, I don't know if you want to help me answer that, but based on the guidelines that were set by the CARES Act, you would not, because it does say everybody.
Fortunately or unfortunately, that was in our agreement with the County of Orange when we accepted the funds. That was one of the conditions, that the officers of the business would reside in Orange County.
Yeah, so everybody would have to. Okay. So need to provide both income statement and balance sheet, or can it just be income statement? So we'll take a look. We're definitely willing to work with everybody. So if all you have is an income statement, we can probably work with that. But the requirement is a business or an income statement, or really your P&Ls as a whole. So all of them, but we can work with you to try to figure that out or help you try to create those as well. If I have 2 employees that work 6 hours per week, this will be 1 FTE. Correct. So either full-time employee or for every part-time, or 2 part-time for every 1 full-time was the designation that the city's going with. So up to 60 total, they're all part-time, but or a combination of some full-time. Let's say you have 10 full-time and 20 that work part-time, that would be 20 total employees. So a couple of different ways to look at that. So again, one full-time equivalent equals 2 part-time, doesn't matter how many hours those 2 part-time work. Okay, so I know like for a lot of restaurants, you might fall into this category, but it's 30 total. Okay, however that's sliced and diced, and that's prior to March 1st. Okay, so what if the business was considered essential, like a small dealership with an office in Newport Beach, but the owner got COVID? Exactly. You fit as long as the owner's the W-2 employee, or if your business had to shut down because of that. There's a lot of ways that you could have been affected by COVID. So just based on that small question that you're asking me, I would say that you would qualify around the COVID-19 test. So, can an exception be made if we moved our office from Irvine to Newport Beach in December of 2019, but our business license is dated January 5th? So I would, that's right. Let me just read that one more time to make sure I completely understand. Can an exception be made if we moved our office from Irvine to Newport Beach in December of 2019, but our business license is dated January 5th? So unfortunately, the way I interpret the guidelines is no. You really have to be, if it's June 1st that we're looking at, it's really December 1st is when you haven't been in business for 6 months and to be able to showcase that. So I think we're with this program, because it's federal dollars from the county, really you have to stick with the guidelines. So unfortunately, I would assume that if that's the case, you'd be excluded from this. But well, I'll try to get a more definitive answer for you, just a yes or no. If we were a new business and not filed 2019 returns yet, can we submit something in place? Absolutely. So you can submit interim P&Ls so that we can take a look at what that looks like. So that would be another way as well. Would subleases for the total space qualify? So you have to be the master leaseor, but I also want to make sure that everybody understands what a sublease is. So we could be talking about two totally different things. So like, let's say there's a 4,000 square foot space that there's 4 different operators operating out of them. There's like a Subway, there's a, sorry, I don't want to name any particular businesses, but there's 4 different businesses operating out of it. Then they would all qualify for it. But if you're a sub, let's say you're subbing out of unit A, and you're a sub in there and there's somebody else in there, it's whoever has that master lease for unit A would be the one that would qualify for this. So hopefully that broke it down enough that you understand. If not, please write another question on the back end. I'll try to get to it. What if you lease an office space inside a professional office space, office suites? Would only a business that leased the offices be eligible, not the individual businesses? Exactly. That, unfortunately, that's the way that this is written, and this is how the program has to be run. So only the master lease of the whole space would qualify, not the individual businesses within it. Lease, just 1 of 3. So the question is, did you say that you need the tax return, bank statements, and lease, or just 1 of 3? You need all 3. So you're gonna need your tax return, your bank statements for 2 months, and your lease, so that we can validate that you're not a home-based business and that you are the master lease for your space. So if I receive the EIDL, how do I show the difference between what I spent on EIDL and the grant? So it's going to be a self-certification of how you spent those different things. And the EIDL is a loan, so maybe you haven't spent any of it, but you're going to tell us how you're going to spend this money. And so it's going to be a self-certification of what you're spending the money on. Okay? So what is the proof needed that my business was shut down completely since the March health order and still is closed for state health order? So we'll know based on the type of business that you are, whether or not you were forced to close or not. So that's pretty straightforward, unless you were, essential was really kind of markets and restaurants could open up and still be takeout only. There's very specific industries that were allowed to open. So we'll know whether you were forced and deemed non-essential. So, and that question will be on the application. It's going to ask, were you shut down? And then also it's going to ask what industry your business is in, so we'll be able to tell. So Form 940 is an annual federal form, and Form 940 is a quarterly federal form. Quarter 1 ended 3/31, and Form 940 for Form 941, not sure what you're looking for. So we're just looking for the total dollar amount that you spent on your employees, to see what it is. So we should see a pretty different discrepancy. So I understand they're very different forms for very different things. For PPP, I've initially received PPP funding, but returned the loan prior to safe harbor due date. Under IRS, this is the same as PPP was never received. For the subject grant purposes, can I claim I have never received PPP? As long as you gave it back under the safe harbor, absolutely. So is there a time period in which you need to spend the first half of the grant funds? Will the company need to submit proof? Hold on 1 second, that question went too fast. Proof of spending the second half of grant funds. So I believe we put in the guidelines, it was 30 days to spend the first amount, the first half, and then you send us your receipt, and then the second half will be resubmitted back out to you. So pretty straightforward. So 30 days to spend that first amount, and then you submit your receipt, and then we validate that you spent it on things that you said you were, and then you're gonna get the second half. We have staff of 10. Everyone worked at home, company remained open, but revenue declined. Do we qualify if more than 25% declined? Absolutely you do. That's one of the qualifiers. So as long as your business has been affected by more than 25%, you would still qualify. How long do I have to, hold on 1 second, question going too fast. How long do I have to spend this fund if I receive it? So you have 30 days to spend that first half and then give us your receipts. And then you should be spending the second half. You have to spend it prior to really, I think November 1st was the date that we wanted to see everybody spend and exhaust the whole amount. So, and the hope is that, this money really should be exhausted pretty quickly, as there's huge need for everybody to spend it and that you need cash. So if we are, can you have your main store in Newport and another in another county and still qualify? Yes, you can. So you can have multiple locations, as long as you have a store in Newport Beach. Let's say you have a small retail store that you have 5 or 6 stores spread throughout 5 different counties. As long as you met all the qualifiers for COVID, as long as your place of business and your residence is in Orange County, you absolutely would qualify. And as long as you're in good standing, all those other parameters that the city has deemed necessary. Okay, so my business is renting the office under sublet agreement. However, my business is occupying the entire site. Are we qualified or disqualified? So if you're subletting, unfortunately, the way this is written and the way I read it is that you're subletting the agreement, even though you're operating the whole site. But what I would say is write me an email and I'll give you my email address. And so we can talk with the city just to kind of work through this. If there's any kind of nuance that you're not quite sure, reach out to us. I mean, we want to make sure that we've tried to uncover, and get you the right answer, or if there's something that we haven't thought of, and that's definitely one that I haven't thought of, that we can get you the right answer. There's, doesn't have to be decided at this exact moment. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to apply built around the requirements. So please write to me, and I'll give you my email in just a second. The PPP.
I gave it to him. I sent him the email.
Oh, okay, perfect, thank you. The PPP covers 3 months of average payroll and rent from date of receipt of the funds. Can this grant cover rent for the period after PPP dates? Absolutely. That's exactly what it's for. And then just to make sure, not to get on a side tangent here, but just make sure that everybody knows the new code that's come out for PPP, that they have extended it. Now it's 60-40 and you have 24 weeks to spend it. Just in case you don't know, we'll try and get you some information, but they have relaxed some of the laws and regulations, just in case you didn't know that. I'm a business owner with no employees. Am I entitled to apply for the grant? I've been impacted with COVID-19. My business is considered non-essential, but how can I evidence that? So yes, you can apply without any employees. You have to be in a commercial or industrial zone, and you have to be able to prove that you've been hit by COVID. If you've been deemed non-essential, we'll be able to tell that right away. So absolutely. So does the grant apply to owner consultants with office not in an industrial space, but meeting all other requirements? Let me make sure I understand what you're asking. Does the grant apply to owner consultants with office, not in an industrial space, but meeting all of it? So if your space is in either commercial or industrial space. If it's not, then no, you would not qualify. But if it is, then yes, you would. And I hope I answered your question. Sorry, I didn't quite completely understand all of it, but okay. We have a Newport Beach business license, but our current operation is based out of Santa Ana, and our lease would reflect that. How do we proceed? So if you have unless your lease is in Newport Beach, then unfortunately you wouldn't. If your place of business is not in Newport Beach, even though you have a business license, unfortunately you wouldn't qualify for this. So does a dance studio qualify like a gym? I also teach movement for elderly and Parkinson patients. So absolutely, your professional service type of business, as long as you have all the same requirements, you would absolutely qualify for this grant. So are realtors strong candidates for this? So I think the emphasis here is really restaurant, retail, and professional service, but it doesn't mean that you're excluded from it, but there is kind of that precedence of order. So I would say that, as long as you fit all the requirements, that you should absolutely apply. And I know that the city's trying to get as much money to everybody as possible. And so I would say apply, and it's going to be a lottery. So there's really, outside of restaurant, retail, and professional service, the rest of it all goes into a lottery open to everybody. So you have just as good of a chance as everybody else in this. Do you have to send in documentation with the application? So no, you do not send any documentation until after you've been selected in the lottery. We will then reach back out to you and tell you everything that we're going to need, and we'll work with you one-on-one to get all those things. Okay. We sell skincare products online and at beauty clinic salons that have closed during COVID-19, and sales dropped in online. Would this be an acceptable condition? Only if you have a lease in a commercial or industrial space, and that seems to be the piece that you're missing here. But if you do happen to have that lease and you're renting, or you own a space in a commercial or industrial space, then you would qualify. But if you don't, then unfortunately you would not qualify. Please clarify the master lease statement. What if a business is located in an office suite with 2 other non-related businesses, completely separate companies that are different types of businesses? That's okay. It's just who has the lease to the landlord, and then who is subletting. So as long as you have the lease to the landlord, then you would qualify. But if you don't and you're subletting, then you wouldn't qualify. Now, maybe all three of you guys have your own separate leases with the landlord. That would be different. So kind of depends on your situation. I had to borrow money from my son, so I have funds in my account. My account shows I have funds. Will it matter? It won't matter. It's not whether you have money or not in your account. Again, it's showing how you've been affected. And as far as the bank account, we want to make sure that you have a business and that you have a bank account. We would be able. What we're looking for is we'd be able to see whether you got EIDL or PPP funding in that bank account. The fact that your son gave you money, one, I'm glad he did, and I'm glad he had some to give you. But you absolutely that won't disqualify you from it. My business is located in my home. Does that qualify? So Maxine, I apologize. Unfortunately, that it's not open to home-based businesses, so you would not qualify for this. Do 1099 employees qualify for the requirements of the grant? You do, as long as you have, again, you fit all the requirements of COVID-19. You can prove that you have a commercial or industrial space and a lease, or you own the space. So as long as you fit all those other requirements, you can be an independent contractor. PPP received will be okay. Yes, and there is an order sequence here. So first the city wants to fund those that haven't received any funding, and then it goes to EIDL. So if you just got EIDL and no PPP, and then it goes to EIDL and PPP, or one or the other, combination of the two. I have only one person in payroll full-time and one independent contractor. Will I be eligible to the grant? As long as you meet all the other requirements, absolutely. What proof is needed that we've been shut down by health order since March? So, to tell us that is just to tell us what type of business you have, and that, we can see that quite clearly, based on your industry. So does the owner count as an employee? I have one employee out of a family leave and one out on disability, and am I able to count them? You should, it's whatever your count was March 30th. And yes, the owner counts as one of those employees, and I'm not sure if you're trying to get to the bottom end of it or the top end. It's just that you can't have more than 30. So I think it depends on which side you're trying to hit there. What if you have 1 to 2 total employees? That is perfectly fine. With respect to professional office space question, does it matter that the other businesses that lease offices within the space are completely separate businesses with their own business licenses and lease agreements? For example, if one business is a law firm, another is a tutor, and another one sells clothing. It doesn't. It's, most of the time there will be one person that has the lease from the landlord and the other two kind of sublet from that one person. But if you all have your own individual leases, then that will qualify. As a full service restaurant, if we serve takeout during part of the shutdown time, will we still qualify? Our sales were under 25. Absolutely. You just have to qualify for one of those COVID-19 pieces, right? So let me just kind of back up real quick and we can talk about some of these. You just have to qualify for one, right? So it's okay that you were operational, but maybe you were down 25%. You would qualify. It's okay that you were operational and maybe you had to let go of some of your employees. You still qualify. You might have been deemed non-essential and now you had to let go of everybody. You qualify. You just have to meet one of those parameters. But I know, like, for a lot of restaurants, you were still open, but your sales have slipped dramatically, so you still qualify. And it's just matching up one of those things. You don't have to hit all three. So we are a general contractor. Would we qualify if we meet the guidelines and provide proof? Yes, you would. As long as you have commercial or industrial space and you meet all those other things, you absolutely would. Just curious, how many small businesses in Newport Beach? And Tara, I'm not sure if you have that number. I know you have the number of total business licenses in Newport Beach. Maybe that's...
I believe we have 20-some thousand business licenses issued in Newport Beach. I believe out of those, my goodness, it depends upon, for our program, I would say there's probably 15,000 that would qualify here, I believe. Actually, that's not true. There's probably about 15,000 that are considered small, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and there's different definitions for what's considered small. If you look at the federal government, it could be up to 500 employees, which that's really not very small. But everybody's got a different definition. But but to Tara's point, roughly about 15,000 of the 20,000 business licenses within the city would qualify for this grant based on the number of employees they have, and that's kind of where they saw the biggest need. So. Can I use the grant money to pay myself back for using my EDD money for business? I hope that makes sense. So it really shouldn't be used to pay yourself back for EDD money. It really should be used for, those qualifying categories that I'll show you in just a second. But rent, payroll, and I know that the city's willing to go back as far as March 1st, to pay back some of those rent things. But EDD money, I guess I'm confused as to the question of, were you paying somebody for unemployment? I mean, I'm not sure that completely makes sense, but we can definitely talk about that, Linda, if you have maybe rephrase that just so I can have a better understanding. I own my Pilates studio and have only one payroll and one person's contractor. Do I qualify? Yes, you do. Sorry. Do independent business consultants who do not need to lease a commercial industrial space qualify if they meet all the other requirements? Unfortunately, you don't. That's exactly, the city has deemed that they're trying to touch the commercial and industrial zones within the city. So if you don't meet that qualifier, then unfortunately you don't qualify for this particular grant. If there are at least 250 businesses that didn't receive an EIDL or PPP to be considered, will none of the rest of us be considered? And so I think that that's kind of what we're going to find out as we go through this in these different orders. So possible. And so I don't know that, we won't know that until we get all the applications back to see where everybody fits. And so, yeah. So what documentation is needed to show one 1099 contractor employee was let go after March 1st? Whether it be there's really not much that you're going to be able to show us other than you're not still paying them. So we can see that on bank statements as well. Will the application process be available online Friday morning? So yeah, you won't see anything until Friday at 8 o'clock is when everything goes live. So everything will be turned on. You can go directly through the link that you see right here on the bottom of the screen, which is www.newportbeachca.gov /businessgrants. And I apologize, I always screw up the forward slash and backward slash, but I'm pretty sure that's forward when it's to the right on the top. So we'll assume that's forward, and correct me if I'm wrong. You guys aren't shaking your head no, so I'm going to assume I'm right. So that's the best way to get there. And like I said, you won't see it until Friday morning at 8 a.m. And so it'll be live from Friday at 8 o'clock, and it will close Tuesday at 5:30. You also see a fillable PDF that you can download as well. So let me just kind of go through some of the ones that maybe I didn't see yet. Is full-time 40 hours or more? So full-time would be considered 40 hours or more, correct. I own a massage business. I own a massage business. Does that count? I'm still shut down. Clarence, it absolutely counts. And that's why the city is running this program, is to hopefully, help businesses just like you. There's so many businesses that are still shut down or just starting to reopen. That's exactly why this exists. So with that, I know that a lot of these questions are very similar. So there is a recording of this. So we'll send you this recording. If you have any additional questions, you can definitely reach us. Let me just go back. Here's how you can reach us directly. If you need help going through this application, please feel free to reach out to us. When it goes live, I think you'll see it's fillable. It's pretty quick. It should take you less than 20 minutes to fill this out, most likely, roundabout. But thank you to the city and Tara for really, she spent her weekends putting all this together the last couple of weeks, and trying to make this beneficial to everybody. And I know that there's a lot of different nuance to this and a lot of regulations, and it's not the city's fault here. This is really built around federal dollars that have been allocated to the county, that have then been allocated to the city, that just have a lot of different requirements to it. And so I know there's a lot of burdensome pieces to this, but all of it's needed, and it needs to be documented. So like I said, with that, please, if you're not sure, apply, at least go through it and give it your best shot. If you need help or a better understanding, or you just want to kind of talk one-on-one through it of what might be right for you, feel free to give me a call. And then, to another point, our program, if you haven't heard of it, the SBDC or the Small Business Development Center, we're here to help you, through all of these pieces. So if you haven't tried for Paycheck Protection Program, or you're not getting information on your economic injury disaster loan, give us a call. We'll help you figure that out. There is roughly still about $75 billion of Paycheck Protection Program money out there. So if you haven't applied and you think it might be something that you want to go after, please let me know. Like I said, there has been some changes to the forgiveness component of what that program is. So that has changed as well. So if you're not aware of it, we do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday call with somebody from the SBA to go through what the forgiveness is and to kind of walk you through what that's going to look like. And so with that, again, thank you, Tara. I don't know if you want to say a couple words as we.
One last thing, we did update. We had the guidelines document on our website. We updated it today. We had a couple of questions, so we did some clarifications in that document. So I really encourage you to take a look at that again. If you have not read it, please do, or take a look at it again if you read it earlier this week, please.
Well, thank you all. Have a great Tuesday night. And like I said, this opens Friday, so any questions we can answer until then, let us know. And please go to the city's site to take a look at the guidelines. That will help answer a lot of questions. It was really well written. So thank you. Everybody have a good night.